Hello and welcome. Andrew Goodman here, bringing you another tutorial on Affinity Photo for the iPad. Today's video is very exciting as it's all about layers. Layers are absolutely fundamental to Affinity Photo and Photoshop, so it's really important for you to understand how they work. In today's tutorial, I'll be teaching you what layers are and how they work, deleting layers, selecting multiple layers, locking and unlocking layers, adding layers and fill layers, making pattern layers, grouping layers, merging and rasterizing layers, renaming layers, changing the opacity and blend modes, soloing layers, reordering the layers, and a brief look at clipping masks and masks, and so much more. So let's get into it. Okay, we're just going to go into Affinity Photo again, and we're just going to go back into this Back to the Future poster that we made a few videos ago. First of all, I'm just going to turn off the grids and the guides. Again, there was a video a few videos ago where we looked at grids and guides, and I'm actually going to just hide every layer just so we can do a quick demonstration on layers. If you've never worked with layers before, I'm just going to give you a quick idea of how layers are used, and I'll make just 3 quick shapes. So if you've used Affinity Photo before, or you know a bit about layers, or if you've used Photoshop before, you can skip this section. I'm just going to cover how layers work, and that's a basic fundamental which you really need to know when working in Affinity Photo or Photoshop or any kind of application like it. So I've got a circle here, red square, and a green triangle. And just my layers panel, you can see these 3 very clearly here. Whatever is at the top of this layer studio, it means it's at the top of the page. So literally layers is like, there's my hand, and now my hand's on top of my other hand. So my left hand is on top of my right hand. And then if I want to switch that, my right hand now is on top of my left hand. And that's a bit like what we do in Affinity Photo and in Photoshop. You're just layering things up, and by putting something on top of the other one, it blocks out the hand below or the subject below. Hopefully that makes sense. We'll go into a wee bit more detail now. So we've got our yellow circle at the very top, then we've got our triangle below it, and the square at the very bottom layer, or the bottom of these 3 layers anyway. If we want the square at the top, we simply, and I use my finger for this because it's easier, we just tap and bring it up to the top. And now without touching anything, the square is at the top. Again, if we want the triangle at the top, highlight triangle, bring it to the top, and now it is the top layer and it's covering the other 2. And layers are so powerful, and you can build up so many elements using layers. So hopefully that's a quick illustration on layers. If we wanted to, we could make the green layer go in the middle, and now it's between these 2 layers, and we can make it big and do all kind of mad things here. That's nearly like the sun in the background. So there we go. That's a quick introduction to layers. I'm just going to delete the layers. To delete layer, you can click on the first icon, which is the bin tool, or the first icon from the right. If I click the triangle and then select the red square by just simply swiping over it, both layers are now selected. I can move it, or in this case, I can also just delete it. What you'll see quite often is when I am in the layers mode, as soon as I click on another tool, or as soon as I click on the canvas, the layers studio will disappear. This wee pin tool up here, if I click on it, now when I click on the canvas, the layers remain. So we'll maybe just keep that pin tool connected for this, just so the layers is always shown. Normally I don't do this, but for the sake of this tutorial, it'll be quite good. The wee 3 lines beside it, we'll use it because it relates to all these layers. At the minute I've hid all of them. You've seen me just click by ticking it. We can hide them, or we can bring them all back. Or if we click here, we can do a few things. We can select all. So all the layers are selected. So that's one way to select layer, to select the layers by clicking this wee menu. And from here, we can simply lock them all. If you lock them all, you'll see the lock icon comes. Now, if we try to click on anything, click on this text, click here, there's nothing we can do. I see I've actually, along the way, made the Robert Zemeckis text red. So by clicking the lock icon, I simply unlocked it, and then we can click that red again. Go into layers, and if I go up here and lock, that locks that layer. So we can select all. So we can't select all, sorry, because all the layers are locked. So another way of selecting all is just by dragging your finger, as we've seen before. That selects them all. Click up here, unlock all, and now the wee lock icon is away, and we can work with all these again. So we can select all, we can lock, unlock all, hide, show all, show unlocked, show links, edit layers, checkerboard background. Basically what that means, if we click that, you'll see, a bit like Photoshop, the background of each is checkerboard. I prefer having that off, and by default it is off, so we're just going to keep it because straight away I think you can make out the images a wee bit better. So we've already looked at deleting a layer. You can simply just delete it. We'll not do that. 2 fingers again, I'll bring that back. The plus icon, we can do a number of things here. We can add a pixel layer, fill layer. We'll maybe just do this. A pixel layer is just an empty layer, and from here we can maybe do a gradient, and then it makes it a gradient. 2 fingers will undo that. We can click the flood fill tool or the paint bucket tool, and just by tapping it once we can fill it that way. You can see our color is changed up here, and we can change it to a pinky color and tap again. 2 fingers again will bring that back. So that's just a pixel layer. We'll delete that. We can also do a fill layer, which will make it pink because that's the color we have selected, and we can move that to any color we really want. So we'll delete that again. A pattern layer, I've never used this, but for the purposes of this video, we'll just maybe make this 200 pixels by 200 pixels. Okay, and you can see a wee square here and nothing here. If I go into paintbrush, maybe bring it down a wee bit, you'll see the square is very small, and if I simply just do a wee smiley face like that and zoom out, that will do a pattern. So that's quite good fun. We'll delete that. We'll do that again, but we'll maybe make it 500 pixels by 500 pixels, just so we've got more room to play with, and you can see it coming up there. And this time we'll maybe, what we'll do this time, we just make it a nice yellow color, and just do a wee yellow sun. And that looks absolutely brilliant, and that's our poster finished. So that's quite good fun. I've never used it, but for the purposes of this video, I'll show you. And then the pattern from selection is similar. Masking, empty mask, and empty group. We're going to go into masking in a different video. Masking is quite a big subject, so we'll not worry about masking just at the minute. The next icon is group. So simply by hitting that, we have now got our text in a group. If we do 2 fingers to undo that, if we select multiple layers and hit group, now all those are in the group. 2 fingers to undo. We can select and also pinch. If you've seen the gestures video a good few videos back, you know, but by pinching can make a group, and by unpinching, there we go. It's just a wee bit fiddly. You nearly need to go diagonally and do it. So that's group. Merge down, I've never used. Merge selected. We can simply maybe select these top 3 and click merge selected. Merge visible. And what that actually does, it makes a copy of the whole thing, which is quite nice. 2 fingers to undo that. We can rasterize. Rasterizing means if we have this text file here, maybe just easier to show you on the trilogy one here. So we'll go down to trilogy. This is a text file. If we go to text, we can hit this and we can change this to whatever we want. We can change it to my name. We're not going to do that. 2 fingers undo. So we can still change the text, but if we want to rasterize it, it means that now if we try to double click, we can't double click on that. That is, it's an image for all intents and purposes. It's made it from a layer of text where I can edit to now I can't, and you can actually see pixel beside it. So I'm going to undo that, and you can see trilogy, and that means if we click on the text tool, highlight it, we can edit it again. Rasterize and trim does the same kind of thing, where if we rasterize and trim, you can see at the minute our box is actually just in the text because we've got a stroke value here and outer outline of the text. But if we do rasterize and trim, you can see the box actually goes to the edge of the layer now. So we'll just undo that and then rasterize to mask, and we'll not go into that just now. We'll maybe leave that for another video. Coming across is a nice button that I use quite a bit because it's all the properties of this file. So we've got this trilogy text selected. If we click here, first thing we can do is change the name of this file. So trilogy is that, so we'll not change it for this layer, we'll change it for the next one. The next one down, we can change the opacity, so that can be quite nice. That's how you change the opacity. We can change the blend modes for it, or we can click and do different blend modes. We'll just put it back to normal for the time being. We'll make the layer visible, not visible. We can lock it, so nothing can be done now with it. We can solo it, which is very nice. So it's really nice if you've got lots and lots of layers and you just want to have a quick look where it is. You can see it being soloed, visible, invisible. And then there's other things here that will come. It's more compositing really. We'll worry about that on a different video. Again, text is going to be something similar. I'll maybe change the universal logo. We'll click into this, because if we look at the minute, it says universal. You can see it's universal, but just a bit of nice housekeeping. We'll maybe just change it to the actual name. So if we just click into it, I can just simply type in universal and click on OK. What you can also do is click into it, simply scratch it out and write universal. And depending on how good your handwriting is, it should pick it up. That's not bad, all in caps, but that's grand. We'll take that. So that's okay. And now if we go back, you can see that that has been named universal. And again, we'll maybe just rename this too, because that's a bit of a strange title. Just click into it. Again, you can hit the X, or you can just scribble it. Scribbling is quite nice just to get rid of it. And then we'll maybe just change this to Marty. Go back, and now we know that's Marty. We'll change this just to logo. So that's our Back to the Future logo. We can change this to clock tower. And we can go back and we'll just change this to Western. And it's a bit of nice housekeeping. Now we've got the visual representation of each layer, but it's also nice just of Western. Again, these wee tick boxes, we can hide them. So that's the Western, that's the clock tower, that's our logo, that's Marty, Universal logo up here, Steven Spielberg. And normally what I like to do is order them. So really Steven Spielberg should be at the top of the layers. It doesn't really matter because nothing's going above it as long as it's above the clock tower image. But by holding and dragging, we can move a layer to the very top. Then Robert Zemeckis, we'll maybe bring Universal up to the very top. Sometimes it's a wee bit sticky, the layers, if we drag it up to the very top. So we've got Universal, Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis. We've then got our logo, followed by our trilogy, and then Marty has to be on the top even though the clock tower is at the top of the canvas, Marty needs to be at the top. That's what we talked about in layers, because if we made the clock tower above Marty, you'll see what's happened. Marty's cut out, which we don't want. We need Marty above that clock tower layer. For the same reason we need Western below Marty. We'd actually change this Western image to up there if we want it, but we'll just keep it at the bottom. That's a bit of nice housekeeping. So I'll maybe just show you the layer modes. We'll go to the logo for this. Logo's grand, we don't really need to change this, but if we do these 3 dots, so again, that's the name of it, the opacity, we can solo it, we can lock that, make it visible, and if we just click on these layer modes, you can see it darkening. For this purpose of logo, we're not going to be wanting to change anything. Gives you some quite cool effects. And you can also click, like all things in Affinity Photo, you can click into it and quickly just drag down. And it's really nice that it gives you a preview straight away of what the different layer modes do. So we'll click normal just to show you, we'll show you more about layer modes and why they are particularly good, especially in compositing, but we'll leave that for another video. You can see universal here, we've got a wee FX applied to it. That means there's something in the layer FX studio that's happening here. And if you remember, way at the very start of this poster, we changed the color, so we can turn that off. So that's how you know there's something here. There's also something in the trilogy, and I touched on it earlier on. If we go into it, it's actually an outline and the gradient. So by having the wee icon of FX, you know there is an effects applied to the layer. The only thing we haven't really touched on is masking. That's for another video. There's a thing called clipping masks, and it's for another video also. I'm just going to show you it here very, very quickly, just because you could be mucking about with layers and accidentally do something and go, what on earth have I just done? If we maybe take this trilogy, hold it, and bring it to the middle. So if we put it above, the logo, it's not going to do anything. If we put it below, it's not going to do anything. But what we can actually do is this layer will go to the middle of the logo. If we do that, suddenly it disappears, and you might be going, what's going on? You can still see it. It's visually there in the layer. It's not turned off. That's it turned off. That's it turned on. We can go in here and we can solo it, and you can see it's still there. So what it's doing, this is called a clipping mask. And if we use the move tool, if we click on this, now this layer, this looks quite freaky, but it's kind of cool too. This layer will only be displayed where the Back to the Future logo is. And we can make it big, or we can make it small. And it looks a bit daft, but there are reasons for doing this. I'm going to hit 2 fingers and go back, and maybe just to show you, I can also hit 2 fingers and go back so it's back to where it was. But just in case you ever don't notice, if you're working on a project and then you don't be hitting back 100 times just because you've realized you've put this layer in the wrong place, you can just click on it and just bring it simply down to the bottom or above or to a different location, and it'll go. And again, just to show you, we'll maybe bring it into this layer of Marty, and we can move it, and suddenly this layer is only shown where the layer of Marty is. So this layer of Marty, if you remember, if I hide these backgrounds, that's cut out. So by simply moving trilogy, we can see it'll only stay where it's cut out. Again, there is uses for this, and I'll go into this in another video, because this is how I do a lot of compositing work, by using clipping masks. So we'll just bring that back to where we were. The other wee thing just to touch on is, you see when you have a mask, it goes underneath here. So we'll quickly do the Back to the Future. We'll change this into a mask layer. We'll make it a mask layer. Nothing seemingly happens, but there's a wee arrow now beside it, and something white, a wee white square. If we pull it down, you can see the white square. We'll talk about masks in another video, but just as a quick example, if we use the paintbrush, we'll change this to black. We can start to paint on the logo, and it's removing our logo. And if we hide this mask layer, it's still there. Or, and again, we'll touch on masks in another video. If we change it to white, we can go over it, and we can only even just want to do the middle of it. You can do some really, really cool things with masks. Again, I'm not going to touch the masks in this video. We'll have touched on masks in this video, but I'll explain more about masks in another video. I'll just delete it. But it's just so you know what the wee arrow means and what the wee black and white means. That means it's a mask layer. If we turn this off, you can see it's now back to the way it was, but we want to keep it the way we had it as a mask. And I think that's us when it comes to layers. Layers are so, so powerful. The bigger the project, the more layers you have. Affinity can, I can't remember how many layers it goes up to, but it's an awful, awful lot. I'll maybe just take you back to, let's see, this Star Wars poster for Star Wars Day 2021. You can see it's actually taking a while to load. That's because there's so many layers in it. If we go into the layers, and I talk about good housekeeping, not one of these, or there's not many of these, have the correct names. And it actually takes a wee second for the icons to load up. But look at the amount of layers here. You can see straight away, you'll be able to recognize that these are mask layers. Straight away, you'll be able to recognize that these have effects. And that's another good wee point. That was a happy accident. If we click on the FX, it takes you straight to that layer effect. So this pixel layer, I forget where it is. We'll go to solo. Here it is down here on solo. So you can hardly see it just in here, that wee jet of light. And if we make it, you can just see it just about there. And if we click into this, oops, that has a glow effect on it. A better example of that would actually be maybe this explosion. So if we click into layer effects, I have applied an outer glow to this. So if we zoom in, you can see layer effects, outer glow. I've had a bit of a glow to that layer. Layers are fundamental to Photoshop, to Affinity Photo, to most applications like this. And you can see some are hidden. You can tell some are hidden, some aren't hidden. Nearly all of them don't have the correct name, but you can pick out, as say, the mask layers. You can pick out the effects layers now, and yeah, that's us. This was a really good, fun project to work on. And there's a lot of adjustment layers in this too. We're going to talk about adjustment layers on a different video too, but hopefully that video or this video will give you a really good understanding of layers and how to use them. So there you have it. Coming quite soon, I'll be making videos on masking and adjustment layers. But to really understand these things, you really need a good understanding on how layers work. So hopefully you found this video useful and helpful. And if it was, please like this video, please subscribe, because I'll be bringing out more videos like this every week. Feel free to comment below if you've any questions or thoughts about this video, or if there's something you still don't understand about layers, please let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, you might also want to check out this video where I show you how to cut out an object with the pen tool. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.